General Jack Keane back with us. We always learn a lot talking to the General, kind enough to join us. So, General, you often remind me, sir, about, a leader who's trapped, a wounded animal in a corner, can lash out in all sorts of ways, but clearly sending a signal to engulf the rest of the world with him. What do you make of it?
Well, I think mostly the threat of a nuclear weapon is about fear-mongering. I mean, what he's attempting to do is clearly, he's losing this war. It doesn't mean he's going to lose it. There certainly is an opportunity for the Ukrainians to inflict that on him, and they do have the momentum, and that's all good. And certainly what he wants to do is cut off the support. He knows that the support that they have received, particularly from the United States, but also from the UK and other countries, has actually been quite decisive in helping the Ukrainians achieve this operational momentum. And when everybody talks about, it's part of the DNA for them to use tactical nuclear weapons if they're fighting a war, well, that scenario is when they're fighting a war against a superpower like the United States. We have to unpack this a little bit so it makes sense to the American people. In terms of what the consequences are. First of all, militarily, one tactical nuclear weapon would not do the kind of damage I think Putin would want to do to the Ukrainian forces and the disposition of their people as well. But politically, probably one would be suffice. But what would be the consequences of that? Well, first of all, they have to deal with the radiation themselves, Russian forces on the ground, and possibly the Russian people themselves. And so that is a terrible consequence for them. The second thing is a nuclear weapon exploded in Ukraine, in Europe, almost guarantees that the United States would enter the war, as would NATO. And listen, that means for a fact Putin loses. There's no doubt. If the United States came in unilaterally, he loses. We wouldn't put 400,000 or 500,000 troops in there.
General, how does it end? If you think about it, his options are few, but he can't leave without something, right? And I just talked to a parliament member here who said he's not leaving with any of our land, that's for sure. He's not leaving, taking these eastern provinces and making them his own. That's not happening. So what does he go back to show the Russian people for all of this?
Yeah, so I think where his head is now, after the Donbass region, he wasn't able to be completely successful there, only about 40% successful. After this successful counteroffensive, he knows full well that this war doesn't end in weeks or months, that he's in a protracted war, and that he's playing for the long game, Neil. Yeah. What he wants is wear and tear on the Ukrainian people, and you've discussed this yourself. They get worn down by this casualties to their forces, loss of life to their families. The second thing, and he's also counting on the Europeans and even the United States, but mostly the Europeans, also to get worn down. Energy crisis this coming winter, economic issues, inflation, all of that taking its toll.
Some of them are,
He wants
General.
to see
Some
Europeans in the streets protesting.
They're tired of it.
Oh, there's no doubt. And listen, the Germans and the French have never been in this thing, Neil. So he sees all of that. He's playing for the long game here. And that's what he wants. And I still think in his mind, he can still take much of that southern coast and call it a day at some point through negotiations as a result of that. That, I think, is kind of an end game. We can only speculate. But the idea of him using a nuclear weapon and the consequence of that war expanding and guaranteeing him a loss, then I think that's remote. And certainly it's a possibility because he's throwing it out there. But I think it's largely fear-mongering.
Let us hope so. General, always great seeing you. Thank you. General Jack Keane served this country with great honor and distinction as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.